So in addition to the aquarium cleaning magnets and the cleaning pad on a stick, there's also the need for the little hand pad. You know you've done a lot of aquarium cleaning if your hand pad wears a hole through the center of it. So I had to go out and get a replacement. Got to do the job right, right? So we've now got the front of the tank cleaned, we've got the inside of the tank cleaned. We're now ready to do the water change and vacuum the gravel. This particular tank gets a 30-gallon water change. It's a goodly sized water change, partly because I was trying to dilute nitrates and phosphates, but that really doesn't work. Partly because I could use a lot of that volume or water in the process of siphoning out the water to siphon out some of the old algae. To be honest with you, that was probably the main motivating factor right there. But regardless of what my intent was, the tank does get a 30-gallon water change, so we're going to go ahead and start siphoning that out. We'll also vacuum the sand and suck some more of that algae up. And while it's only a short distance to a toilet that's directly behind the tank, you would think I could siphon the water directly into it, and the answer is yes, I could. But the reality is this tank, unlike, say, the fancy cylinder tank, I know exactly where to drop the water level in the cylinder tank so that I can pump back 100 gallons of water, as well as with that big 400-gallon bow front. But this tank, because I service it from the back, I really don't know where it is that I would stop siphoning water out at for 30 gallons. And so what I'll end up doing, as I have for years now, is siphon it into 5-gallon buckets. At least this way I can measure the amount of water coming out of the tank so I can match the same amount going back into the tank. And so with that said, let's get to work.
For years, we were all told that regular 20% a month water changes would help keep aquariums healthy. We all assumed that this applied to living coral reef tanks as well. Wrong. Water changes will not keep up with the rise of phosphates or nitrates in your aquarium. To effectively control these nutrient levels, one must employ some means of nutrient removal from day one. Previously, we discussed the application of biopellets, and you've seen my recent installations and retrofits of aquarium algae scrubbers. Let's now consider GFO. This is granulated ferric oxide. It's a form of iron that attracts phosphates into itself. It looks like coffee grounds. It's my plan to add a small canister that contains this GFO media to this 10-year-old former living coral reef. So now with 30 gallons of old dirty water removed from the system, it's time to replace that water with new salt water. For my aquarium maintenance business, I use, and have for 20-some years, real ocean water. I can transport it in a 100-gallon container or multiple 5-gallon jugs. The size of the water change should equal what it would take to clean your gravel area and any direct vacuuming of dirty, silty, or algae-covered areas, as well as allow for replenishment of emptied canister filters or protein skimmers. If the volume is too large, it can alter the water's temperature, salinity, or pH, all of which can be stressful, and that's not the goal of the water change. In addition to the actual water change, you'll also want to double check the salinity beforehand as well as after the water change, so as to confirm if the addition of fresh water is needed to compensate for evaporation of the salt water. As a service person who only visits this tank every 2 weeks, I rely on the homeowner adding the replenishment water between service visits. I leave him a number of small containers with fresh water so that he can easily and conveniently replenish that water when it's needed.
So now that the tank is clean, I want to go ahead and put those coral decorations back in. And all those decorations go back in one at a time.
When it comes to aquarium decorations, there are many choices. These range from plastic to live plants, sunken pirate's treasure chests to colorfully casted plastic corals, as well as molded coral reef inserts. I prefer the natural coral skeletons. Their colors won't fade, they'll tolerate the bleach cleaning, and they look just like the real thing. Because they are the real thing. Most of my aquarium service customers have 2 sets of these corals. This allows me to have a clean set available at the time of each aquarium service.
And so with the tank clean and redecorated with the coral decorations, it's now time to clean that algae filter. So here's my algae filter. You can see it's got an abundance of algae growing inside of it. It's kind of a U-shaped spray bar with a screen that droops or drapes between the 2 spray bars. It grows obviously an abundance of algae on it. It's illuminated by that security light, which probably isn't strong enough. And there may not be adequate flow or enough water flow in there, but you can certainly see it's growing an abundance of algae, and the water is certainly flowing over the top of it. It sits in this reservoir or tub, a Rubbermaid tub, and I'm going to call it an algae filter. It was kind of a pseudo-algae scrubber. What I want to do now is remove the spray bar with screen, take it outside, and clean that algae off. Okay, so here's the screen and spray bar. You can see the algae growing on there. And I'll set this down in the bucket. And we'll go ahead and clean that screen outside.
Using a flat edge scraper, I will scrape off the algae from the screen. These algae have consumed nutrients such as phosphates and nitrates in their normal growing process. The idea behind the algae filter or algae scrubber is to create an area that encourages and accelerates the growth process, thus increasing the consumption of nutrients from the water. The scraping of the algae now physically removes the algae and its nutrients out of the system. To me, this is proof that something is happening.
And with that screen cleaned off, we'll go ahead and re-secure it back inside the algae filter. Adjust the position of the screen to maximize the amount of water flowing across it. And I think that works. We'll go ahead and reposition the lid on top and place our security light, which we'll take and clean off just a little bit. Make sure the light can get through there. Okay, that takes care of our algae filter.
Does your aquarium look like this? Would you like it to grow less algae? Algae scrubbers work! And for the latest in convenience, simplicity, and low cost, meet the Hog Upflow Algae Scrubber. Air pump driven and LED light illuminated, the Hog fits easily into your sump or aquarium. For more information, visit santa-monica.cc. Next time you're near Long Beach, California, take the time to stop in at Age of Aquariums, 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. Age of Aquariums carries a full line of dry goods, supplements, and exotic equipment. Age of Aquariums also carries a wide assortment of living corals, coral frags, as well as fresh and saltwater fish, ranging from the usual, the unusual, and the bizarre. Age of Aquariums is located at 2642 Cherry Avenue, Long Beach, California, near Signal Hill. Open 7 days a week. Call 562-438-6252 or visit ageofaquariums.biz. Reef Hobbyist magazine believes that our hobby, our fellow hobbyists, and the animals in our care are best served by the free distribution of quality information. Reef Hobbyist magazine provides hobbyists with critical husbandry information with an emphasis on marine ornamental breeding efforts. Reef Hobbyist magazine is available for free in local fish stores across the country, or you can subscribe at www.reefhobbyistmagazine.com. Hey there, I'm Jim Stime, the LA Fish Guy. I'd like to make it a special point to invite you to come on back for some future episodes. The reason why? I'm going to change the format of the show. Up until now, the LA Fish Guy shows have been primarily Jim Stime. I've enjoyed all of them. What I want to do is change things up. I want it to become more true LA Fish Guys, as in more than one. We're going to visit wholesalers, we're going to visit retailers, we're going to visit coral frag people. I may even get into some freshwater and some koi ponds. So make it a point to come on back for some future episodes. I think you'll enjoy it. And in the meantime, keep moving forward. So it's now time to install that GFO reactor. This is the space below the aquarium. We're kind of limited on the amount of space that we have. I don't want to end up creating or crowding this area, because that's how the homeowner puts his replacement water back into the tank. So I'm going to have to put it off to this side here and try to minimize how much I intrude into the space for refilling the sump. So here's our little reactor. It's a Via Aqua reactor. I've already pre-washed the GFO and put it inside there. I had to select a slightly bigger water pump to drive it because the original Rio 200 was way too small. This has to be a Rio 800, which, to be quite honest with you, is a little on the big side, but it does have a little valve on there. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this up where it draws from the sump via the pump through the canister, tumbles the GFO, and then allows it to enter back into the sump itself. Alright, so I've now got the little reactor placed here to the left side of the opening of the door, hopefully out of the way far enough. You can see the curved tube at the top is hooked up to that little Rio 800 down inside there. And I pre-ran it in the sink last night to determine what I consider the right amount of flow. That might have been a little bit more GFO than what I needed, but the point is to put it in a reactor, and as I understand it, you want to tumble it a little bit. I don't understand the logic behind there other than minimizing shortcuts through the media, wanting to expose all the media to the water, which are all very good reasons. But anytime you start tumbling or moving something, it's going to end up breaking itself up into finer pieces. So that could potentially be an issue. This little reactor does have a sponge in there that supposedly will stop a lot of that stuff from being flushed on through.
And I also did flush the GFO. It is, I don't want to say dirty, but it stains the water real easily. So anyhow, hopefully I've got this secured properly. Let's go ahead and plug it in here and see what happens. Okay, I can hear the pump inside there running, but I don't see it pumping any water in there yet, so let's see what I can do to help it out here. Nope, hold it, there it goes. Took it a moment to prime. You can see it's pushing the media up, and it is tumbling to a certain degree. Yeah. Tumbling like a, what would you call that stuff we used to do? Fluidized filter bed. And then there's a wad of media sitting here at the top with a sponge holding it back. And it appears to be flowing back into the sump. So I think what we'll do is we'll make a quick phosphate and nitrate test to kind of get ourselves in ground zero. I need to drop that water level now that I've filled the reactor a bit. Drop the water level so that down to here, because if I leave it higher and the power were to go off, it's quite possible that the sump could overflow, and we don't want that. Even though there's a floor drain right here, my luck, the water will go the other direction into the drywall, and we just don't want to do that. So having predetermined where the water level, running water level is, let's strive to keep it at that point. And so that's the service, once again, of this 150-gallon used-to-be reef tank, now fish tank, with an algae filter, pseudo-algae scrubber, and the addition of GFO in a little reactor placed on there today. So make it a point to come on back for future episodes, especially to follow up with this one. We'll let you see how the results visually turn in the tank, if there are any as a result of GFO. Until then, always keep moving forward.